All right, thanks to Lena. Our meeting's being recorded. And so some of you will be very familiar with the mission and vision already of Great Ed.
Give me one second, Kristen, I've screwed up.
No worries.
Okay, are we there? Can you see this?
We are on Rural Schools Alliance still.
That is not what I'm looking for. Okay, my apologies. Yeah, just off the top of your head, Kristen, this is a test on the mission and vision. And I'll be right.
Well, I have it pulled up on my screen, so. But just to remind everyone, if you've heard it before, Great Education Colorado's vision is through public education that every Colorado student, regardless of zip code, learning needs, language, identities, or the color of their skin, graduates ready and prepared to lead their best life. And our mission is to harness the power of grassroots activism and diverse, inclusive networks to guarantee that public schools in every Colorado community are welcoming and are equitably, adequately, and sustainably funded. So we've got some new faces here, which is amazing. And as a reminder, our goal for this group is to create a space for us to build community and take action together. And so we meet the second Tuesday of every month from 4:30 to 5:30. We'll be dropping the registration link for September in the chat. And just a reminder of our community commitments, move up, move back, which is sometimes people refer to as take space or make space, depending on how you often show up in this kind of group. We're reminding everyone that no one knows everything, but together we know a lot, and we're here to learn together. And then we will, presume positive intent in our interactions, but also want to be sure we're acknowledging the impact. So let's be open with each other. And I will pass it to Lisa to talk about the latest in school funding.
Thank you, Kristen. And this is going to be pretty quick, just to sort of follow up on some conversations we've had in the past, but always wanting to let people know wherever you're coming in this story, this is the right place to be. So here's some good news. I believe last month we asked you all to write to your your representative and our two United States senators to get the administration to release funding that it was illegally holding back, about $80 million for Colorado. It has been released. They reversed their decision. Whether that money has gotten to school districts or not, we're not sure. We also asked folks to write to the legislature or to Congress to get rid of vouchers and out of the OBBBA, the big boondoggle, however we're going to call it. There is school choice tax credits in it. I'm not going to go into it now. The bottom line is that if there is a fight to be had, this school choice tax credit bill only goes into effect in Colorado if we opt in. And so it may well be. Right now, we haven't heard that the governor is going to opt us in. I know the legislature wouldn't. So there may be a fight in the future to make sure that Colorado does not participate in the privatization of public dollars into private schools. And this is just sort of some context to get us ready for our speaker today, Chris Kennedy from the Bell. And that is this spring, as you may have recall from the last budget fight or the last legislative session, they had to find $1.2 billion to cut below what it would have cost for maintaining current services and keeping up with inflation, keeping up with caseload in schools and Medicaid, et cetera. So it was a tough budget. K-12 did pretty well. It wasn't as much as it would have been if they had just kept current the law, the School Finance Act, as it was when in January of this year. We did okay. The BEST program, which is the one way that the state puts money into the building of schools, mostly in rural districts where they don't have enough money to raise on their own to build a building or improve their buildings. They had to cap the BEST program. As bad as that was last year, it's going to be tougher this year, in part because of two things that happened in that national legislation. We do all have to decide what we're going to call it. But the bill cuts Medicaid, it cuts nutrition, it cuts education. So that's one thing that we have to take into account is over the next several years, federal dollars are going to stop and somehow Colorado's going to have to make up for them. And the other thing that it did that we just found out a couple weeks ago, or just got the numbers, is that because Colorado's, when you pay your taxes, you base the percent that we pay, 4.4%, is based on a particular line in your federal income taxes. And they made changes in that OBBB that reduced Colorado taxes because because we're connected to the federal taxes. It reduced our income in this current year by $1 billion. So there's going to be a special session to address that, at least to start addressing that. There will be a special session in the next couple of weeks. We can talk about it some next time around. Again, that was just some context. And now back to Kristen about how we're going to do something about that. So back to you.
Thanks, Lisa. So that was, like we said, a quick run through. I invite everyone to take a deep breath as we are kind of digesting that information. I'm just going to take a few quick minutes to remind folks about our Get It Done campaign, and then we'll spend the rest of our time hearing from Chris, which we're really excited that he's here. So hopefully most of the folks, if not all of you, are familiar with the Get It Done campaign, but just as a reminder, this is our effort on the part of both us as individuals and also many organizations on board, urging the state legislature to take bold and concrete action to implement the recommendations of the school finance adequacy studies. So these are some of our partners in Get It Done. You'll notice PTA is here. Sorry, Lisa. Let's see, we've got Association of School Boards, League of Women Voters, probably a lot of groups that you're already familiar with. And just a reminder and kind of setting some context for the Get It Done campaign. In May of 2023, the state commissioned 2 firms to conduct adequacy studies to really see like what would be required for Colorado schools just to reach the standard of performance that we have outlined for our students, and kind of like the goals for kids at each different level. So because of that, we initiated the Get It Done campaign last fall. The adequacy studies were released and presented to the state legislature this January. Great Ed had an advocacy day in April and also got I believe the Senate to pass a resolution committing to, carrying forward the adequacy studies and not letting that fall by the wayside. And so now we're in this sort of in-between phase where we're working on building up our local teams before the legislative session starts in January, so that we really we can start meeting with our legislators and really getting the word out there about how important education is to all of us across the state. And I just want to take a quick minute to highlight that we have many different opportunities for people to plug in with us into the Get It Done campaign. So can't say it enough. Whatever your background and capacity is, there's a place in this fight for you. So we have a few different levels where some of the activities that you're doing can be as simple as signing up for the Get It Done campaign, which I believe everyone here has already done, attending these monthly meetings. Then we have, more steps to get more and more involved, all the way up to being the person to lead a local team. So in the interest of time, I won't spend any more time on this, but if anyone has questions, I invite you to message in the chat, and I'll also drop my email so that you can send me an email. And with that, I will pass it over to Chris. And Chris, if you could just, we have a few actions at the end, if you could just leave us like 3 minutes.
It seems like you know that I'm a retired politician, that I'm going to just take up all the time that's available. And it ends at 5:30, correct? Okay. So thank you all so much for having me today. I've been before this group before in my previous capacity as a state legislator. I finished my 8-year journey through the state house last July and then started at the Bell Policy Center shortly after that. And so it's been a real pleasure to get to continue the hard work of trying to solve the state budget problem, but now in a different role from outside of the building. Lisa and I talk multiple times every week and have been really working hard to put together this concept that I'm going to walk you all through now. So I think I want to take a step back and talk about the big picture. It sounds like from the introductions, people are pretty Tabor familiar, generally understand the ways that that has impacted our ability to fund education as well as other state priorities. And so I won't go too deep into that. What I will talk about is that there has been a really robust conversation in the state for years and years about what is the right solution. And from a pure policy perspective, there could be a variety of different answers, but when you bring in the politics, it starts getting really tricky. I think a lot of folks in the state have long thought that debrucing the state budget or exempting our revenues from the state Tabor cap is the most straightforward approach, the lowest hanging fruit. And there have been attempts to do that in numerous different instances. Most recently in 2019, Proposition CC was on the ballot. Would have debruced the entirety of this Tabor surplus and allowed those dollars to be spent on critical state priorities. And it was a little bit different because of the interaction with property tax policy changes, but Prop HH in 2023 also included a debrucing component. What has also been tried at different times in the past is a graduated income tax policy. And I would say that the only reason that that has not been successful in the past has to do with kind of the strange contingencies of history and what have happened, where either we didn't have enough resources to pass the yes campaign, or else perhaps the moment did not feel ripe to the voters of the state. I will say that I am 100% convinced that 2026 is the year, and that while the problems of the state budget have been chipping away at our ability to fund critical priorities for years and years, this federal budget bill is just pushing us right off the cliff. And if that's not something that makes the voters of the state wake up and recognize it's time for a change, nothing will. And so Lisa and I and our organizations and 10 other organizations have been building a new coalition together where it is our plan to put a graduated income tax on the 2026 ballot, and we're going to win. So I'll talk about kind of where we are in the next, well, maybe I'll talk a little bit about the policy and the politics, and then I'll talk about kind of where we're going with the next steps. So on policy, you can build a graduated income tax policy any number of different ways. There are so many little things you can change. What we are currently proposing is a measure that will generate at least $2.3 billion of new revenue for the state every year, potentially more. And it does so by raising tax rates after income exceeds $500,000 a year. So what this essentially is doing is it is protecting taxpayers who make less than $500,000. That's 99% of the state. It's protecting those voters' Tabor refunds. It's not raising their taxes. We're actually, in fact, exploring giving a tax cut to lower income and middle income people to kind of help with the cost of living pressures that people are facing along the way. But when we raise tax rates on individuals and corporations when their income exceeds $500,000 a year, it targets those cuts on the wealthiest 1% who have benefited most from our growing economy, that are benefiting most from our current flat tax code, and that are benefiting the most from the federal tax cuts that have just passed. And we believe that we can make the case that it is time for them to pay their fair share and support our healthcare and our education systems and the other things that we believe make Colorado a great state. Now, to the politics, You know, these things are difficult. These ballot titles are convoluted. It is difficult for voters to understand. There are deep concerns about taxes in general because voters don't have a lot of confidence that the state is spending their dollars very wisely. And that's a challenge that we're working on and trying to make the case that there are great uses of these dollars that will make a big, huge difference for Colorado. But just to give you a sign of hope, the Bell did some polling in 2023 of 800 registered voters in Colorado where we tested the broader concept. So kind of getting beyond the technical ballot title language, which, don't get me wrong, is a very important thing we're going to have to figure out. But this maybe gives you a sense of where the voters would be if they understood exactly what we're talking about. We asked how voters felt about whether Colorado needs a better tax system that ensures the wealthy pay their fair share and that the priorities like schools, transportation, and healthcare have the resources they need. That was supported by 74% of registered voters in Colorado, including 91% of Democrats, 74% of unaffiliateds, and 53% of Republicans. We asked a more pointed version of the question: do you support creating a new income tax bracket that would increase the tax rate on those making more than $500,000 a year? Supported by 76% of registered voters, including 85% of Ds and Us and 50% of Republicans. And so there is this general appetite for a fairer tax structure, for making the wealthy pay their fair share, and for that being the way that we go about solving for our state's budget crisis that we're in. And that gives us a lot of hope that if we can build the campaign, the voters are there waiting for this offer to be on the table for them to say yes. So in terms of what comes next, these are difficult coalitions to put together. You have to raise a lot of money. You have to secure a lot of commitments from folks. But one of the things that Lisa and I have agreed on throughout the last year is we have to start having a public conversation about this. To continue to have these conversations just happening between these coalitions where we never really engage the broader public has been a reason that we've continued to not make forward progress. So we are preparing to file the initial variations of graduated income tax ballot measures this coming Wednesday, August 20th, one day before the special session starts. And one of the main reasons we want to do that is that the legislature has a lot of really tough choices they're going to have to make during the special session. And with some of the cuts, depleting the state reserve in order to balance the budget, these are difficult choices. And we wanted to point voters and the people that are reading the news about the special session towards a better choice. There is a way that Colorado could have a fair tax structure that generates much more revenue to support the things we care about. But it's not the state legislature that has the power to do it. It's the voters themselves who will have to say yes on the 2026 ballot. So we're preparing to launch these measures, launch some public communications, and scale up our coalition outreach to bring in more and more partners between now and the end of the year. We recognize there will be some challenging conversations to try to identify exactly what will move forward at the end of the year. But this is a moment where we don't want to let any time waste. We want to make sure we continue making progress. And I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me or reached out to other members of this coalition saying, please tell me you're working on something. I really think this is the time. And we think that it is the time and that this is a great opportunity that is going to take a lot of work. Now, when I pitch this to a group like this, I'm guessing that many of you have been part of some of these past efforts I've referred to, have maybe circulated petitions for previous ballot measures that have been out there. And I'm guessing a lot of people feel some exhaustion about this, that how many times are we going to have to do this? How many times are we going to try and maybe or maybe not succeed? And I think my answer is as many times as it takes, because we don't have another choice. I think that there are some who would say, wait until a presidential election. I don't think that we're in an environment where that's the big difference maker here. We are in a political moment where we have an opportunity to catch fire, and it is going to take everybody doing everything they can. So yes, once again, we're going to be calling out to everyone who circulated petitions in the past saying, we need you again. And when people ask, but I'm so tired, why would we do this again? We're like, because we have to, and we have to save the state. And if we do not do this, the cuts will be so devastating. We're not just talking about stalling out on our progress on paying off the BS factor. We're talking about the return of the BS factor. We were talking about cuts to K-12 education. We were talking about the destruction of the state Medicaid program. And I'm sorry, after all my optimistic tone, that I'm circling back to the doom and gloom here, but the stakes are incredibly high. And I think that this is a real opportunity for us to do this big, huge thing together. So giving the legislators a blank check. And so that's, we all figure out how to unify around us. Don't know enough about how they play in that space.
No,
And I think I
agree.
got to give it back to Kristen in the final 4 minutes here.
Thank you, everyone, for the questions. Thank you, Chris, for your explanation and for being so conscious of time. So, Lisa, if you are able to share, because this is an Advocates Network meeting, we want to end, of course, with a few actions for everyone. So the first and foremost, and I will drop the link for this in the chat, is I know not everyone in this meeting might be, a person with the position to do this, but if you are part of an organization that could sign on just in support of the graduated income tax, the coalition that Chris has been talking about, that Great Ed is part of, has this sign-on form. It's not specific to title language. It is more just generally looking for organizations across the state that are willing to show their support for the general, value statement and support of the graduated income tax. So that is our first action. And then we did this last month as well. I've had the privilege of getting to talk with about 6 of you on the call so far. But I have really enjoyed getting to know some of our Advocates Network folks. And, again, whether you're someone who's newer to this group or someone who's been with the group for a long time, I'd love to meet with you. So we can talk about if you are interested or have the capacity to be as involved as leading a local team. I'd also just love to meet one-on-one to get to know folks, hear what's important to you, and think about how you can individually plug in with Get It Done based on where you're at. So if you are interested in that, please send me an email, or you can write I'm in the chat and I'll reach out to you. The next request that we have, as many of you have mentioned, you are all part, or many of you are part of PTAs or other parent or teacher groups across the state. And if you have not already, we would love to have you request a presentation from Great Ed. So we can talk about the Get It Done campaign. We can do, I think, we've done like school finance presentations. Lisa is really the expert in that. So we'd love to have you invite us to come out and talk to some of the other groups that you're a part of. And then our final action is to help us review our Get It Done toolkit. So you may have seen a version of this earlier. We have been revamping it. And really just trying to put as many resources as we can all in one place so that people at different, knowledge levels and capacities can find whatever kind of information they want and get as involved as they want. So I would love to hear your feedback on the Get It Done toolkit. There's a QR code, and I shared the link in the chat. So if you have some time, please take a look and let us know what's missing or what's helpful. And then just one more reminder for our Advocates Network meeting next month. This one went by so quickly, so I'm looking forward to having some more discussion time next month. We will also undoubtedly have updates from special session and whatever else is going on. So thank you all so much for being here. Thanks again to Chris for the presentation and taking the time to answer all of our questions. And Lisa and I can hang around for another few minutes if anyone has final thoughts or questions. But thank you all.
Thank you.
Right on time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone.
Good to see you, Lori. See you, everybody. Great to see you, Ocean. Congratulations again.
Did Lee just come on? I didn't
She's
see
on,
her earlier.
After the introductions.
Ah,